All right, for this week's episode, we're going to have a Savings Scribe, which we haven't had on the show before. And this week, we're talking to our Savings Scribe, Bernadette Lunas, who's recently been looking into wage advance services, which you can often find via certain apps, so also called wage advance apps. She's done a big, deep exploration of these in an article for Savings.com.au earlier this month at the time of recording. G'day, Bern. Great to have you back on the Savings Tip Jar.
Hey, Dom. Hey, Denise. Thanks for having me back.
Now, Bern, I don't know if you've prepared a savings tip for us, but have you got one?
I definitely did. So, we're living in a world where having multiple subscriptions to different streaming platforms has become the norm. And honestly, it's just expensive. So, if you're like me who can't just cancel them all cold turkey, why not rotate them? So, instead of paying for every streaming service at once, you pick one, you watch everything you've been meaning to watch, and then hit pause or cancel before the next billing cycle. So next month, you can then switch to another platform and do the same thing. That way, you're only paying for one streaming service monthly. You know what? I just started doing it now, and honestly, I'm wondering why I have not done this sooner. Because I'm not only saving a few bucks, but it also makes the entertainment feel more exciting or purposeful, since I'm not overwhelmed by choices and can just focus on one. So at the end of the day, those $10 to $20 fees add up fast. And so by rotating, you could easily save a few $100s a year without feeling like you've cut back at all.
I like that,
Nice one,
Burns.
Bern. Yeah,
Yep.
that's a good one. I might have to do that soon because there's a lot of shows I really want to watch that are on HBO Max, and I don't have a subscription to that one. I'm thinking. I think we've finished whatever we're watching on Netflix recently, so might need to toss that one out. There's just really not much on Netflix in Australia at the moment, in my opinion, anyway. Unless there's some show that everyone's watching that I'm totally missing out on, but. I'll probably give that one a go. Thanks, Bern. So wage advance apps. For those that aren't fully in the wear about what these are and why so many Australians are using them, can you just give us a general run through?
Okay, so wage advance apps, or you may also know them as pay advance apps or pay on demand services. Basically, they let you access a portion of your pay before payday. So, right through your phone, you can just use it on your phone. So, usually it's around 20 to 50% of what you've already earned. So, you get that money almost instantly, depending on a few factors, and then it's automatically deducted when your pay comes in. So there are actually different types. There are those that are available directly from your employer, meaning they're integrated with your payroll and HR departments. Then there are also third party apps and bank based services, like the one offered by Combank. But unlike the first one, the one that's integrated with your employer, neither of those two, the third party and the bank based apps, need to contact or involve your employer whenever you access your pay in advance. So you can do it by yourself. So you see, in a genuine pinch, like covering a car repair or medical bill, they can act as a short-term safety net. It's easy to see why they're becoming popular. If you're feeling the cost of living squeeze and something unexpected pops up, waiting until payday may not always be realistic for everyone. But that's really where they work best, those wage advance apps. They're one-off solution, not a regular habit.
So when you say wages you've already earned, instead of waiting for your monthly pay cycle, for example, and you're 2 weeks into it, you can just access a part of that. You can't get the full 2 weeks by the sound, but you can
Mhm.
access part of what you've already earned. Is that how it works?
Exactly. Yes, Denise, that's how it works.
Interesting. Okay, so why would you use these apps instead of just your credit card or something like that? Is it because you've already maxed out your credit card? Is that are people using these people who've already maxed them out?
That could be a reason. That could be a very valid reason. But another thing is, compared, say, to your credit cards or maybe payday loans, wage advance apps are generally cheaper since they often charge a flat fee. Flat fee typically around 5%. of what you're going to access. So again, there another thing is they're very easy to rely on. And another, I think there's this psychological thing that you might say it's my money anyway, I've already earned it. So that could be a reason why some people would much prefer to tap into this wage advance apps rather than their credit cards.
And who offers these? Yeah, what are some of the top providers of these wage advance services in Australia that you know of?
So, okay, for the bank-based apps, some of the top providers are actually Combank. So, Combank has this advance pay. You can access like 100 to about 2,000 or more dollars, but that's subject to approval. And then the third-party apps we have Before Pay, My Pay Now, My Pay Fast, Wage Pay, Wage Tap, and how much you can access varies by the provider of the wage advance service. And also the fees also they vary, but typically it's 5%, or some would add an interest of up to, there's one that adds interest up to 24% per annum. And then the apps or the services that are available or integrated with your employer, we have earned wage access offered by Employment Hero and Paytime. So they both of them actually offer up to 50% of wages. Some are capped. Like for example, earned wages, it's capped at $1,000 per week, and then the other one is a cap depending on your employer. So again, how much you can access and the fees that you're going to pay whenever you access these apps or these services vary by provider.
So I had no idea that there was just so many of them from last time I looked. Obviously, I've never used them. Can this be a problem? When does it become a problem that you're using these, especially when you mention that there's a 24% per annum surcharge or an interest rate on one of them there? That seems like it could lead to a problem.
That is true, Denise. You know, the biggest issue here with these apps is how easy they are to rely on, which is of course also their strength. Again, it's your money, and I mean, it's my money anyway. Why not access it in advance if I need to? While true, since you're accessing your pay early, you're effectively taking money away from your future self, which can make it harder to cover your regular expenses, and that's where the cycle can begin. So you might find yourself using the app again to fill the gap, and then again after that. Actually, research shows many users tap into these apps multiple times a year, sometimes more than 20 or even 30 times, which is, they say, it's a sign of an ongoing reliance. And while, okay, you mentioned the fees and the interest. So while those fees seem small at first, they can add up quickly if you use them frequently. So, and you know what? There's also, aside from that, there's also the concern from regulators and consumer advocates that these apps can actually encourage overspending, especially for non essential things like impulse buys. Like, say, if some new fancy thing becomes available and you want it now, but payday's not until, say, next week, the apps make your money more accessible. So again, the bottom line is wage advance apps can be very helpful in a real emergency. But considering the fees and how accessing your pay in advance can possibly disrupt your budget, they're not really a long-term solution. More so something that you should rely on regularly.
Yeah, it's I mean, just judging by how many providers are out there offering these services, there must be pretty big demand for this sort of thing, and it is a bit concerning because when you try to think about who are the types of people that would use a wage advance service, it'd have to be someone who's in a pretty tight spot if they haven't saved any of their paycheck and that they're actually having to access their future paycheck, at least in part, in order to get themselves through a tight spot. Yeah, it is a bit of a concern, but then again, I can't judge too hardly. Some people, I don't know their full circumstances. I would be curious to know the general demographics of people that use wage advance apps, but it is just sounding a bit like a payday loan, and there's a lot of a stigma attached to payday loans, probably rightfully so, because they have, been there's been regulations attached to those. I think they actually by default come with a government mandated warning label, a bit like it was cigarette packets with payday loans. And I wonder if the same sort of thing applies to wage advance apps. But yeah, just with that in mind, what are some of the main differences between a wage advance app and a payday loan?
So again, they actually are, well, you're accessing or you're getting money, but again, the wage advance apps is you're getting the money that is actually yours. But then again, wage advance apps, they're also not regulated right now. Actually, ASIC said that using they actually has a warning that using pay advance apps could mean that you'd have less money available on your next payday, which can make it harder to manage ongoing expenses. And also have consumer advocates raising concerns that people may rely on them on advances for everyday living costs. And we have actually one of the she's a former director of policy and campaigns at Consumer Action Law Center, who said that these payday apps are exploiting, since they're not yet regulated, but they're not regulated yet. They're exploiting a loophole in the existing laws, and that loophole needs to be slam shut. So, again, unlike they're not regulated under the National Credit Act. Payday loans are regulated under the National Credit Act. Again, wage advance, lower flat fees. Payday loans, higher. Payday loans typically involve higher fixed fees and high charges. With payday loans, establishment fee can be up to 20% of borrowed amount. And yes, again, so often wage advance apps often less regulated at this time, although there have been some changes. I think New South Wales government is actually rolling out some changes that they want these wage advance services regulated, but not yet. And again, it's not regulated under the National Credit Act yet. So that's the
Yeah, it's
difference.
interesting to see that. I'm sure it's on the radar of the regulators, because it sounds a bit like the buy now, pay later sector that sort of sprang up everywhere before regulators were really prepared for it. And maybe we'll see a bit of regulation roll out. Considering I'm surprised just how many of these are in the market. I hadn't been aware that that was that prolific. So that's great. Thanks so much for filling us in on that, Bern. Hopefully, none of us are in the position to use it, but it sounds like it's a good deal for a one-off,
Mhm.
maybe a two-off if you need it. But yes, thanks for filling us in on all the risks with that. Thanks, Bern.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having
Cheers,
me
Bern.
again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if it keeps people away from things like payday loans, then maybe it's a pretty good thing. So yeah, if you guys want to learn more about that, please check out Bern's article, "Pay on Demand." Sorry, I'm bringing up the title of the article. Wage advance apps: the good, the bad, the ugly, and you can find that one on Savings.com.au. Thanks again, Bern. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bern. Bye.